So in this video we are going to discuss more about function modifier. So what is that? So basically function modifier is the function that reuse code before and or after the function, and it is also can be used in order to make the code for becoming even more efficient. So I'm gonna jump direct to it. As usual, we're going to create SPDX and then license and then identifier, and then we're going to use MIT identifier. Afterwards, create pragma solidity of your operation. As you can see, it's already automated in this version of Remix. In my case, I'm going to use 0.8.18 of Solidity, and then create contract, named it with modifier, and then with a capital M. If you used not capital M, then you're gonna create the function and we don't have to write that. Open up the curly brace. First and foremost, create the state variable. Within my case, I'm gonna create a paused and not paused of boolean, and then counter as the unsigned integer. Just type boolean public and then paused, and then down below write uint public count, because we are going to count the function, and then create the function. Down here type function and then named it with setPaused. In this argument of the parenthesis, write boolean and then underscore paused, and then external, because we are going to modify it, so you have to write external, not internal or public. And then open up the curly brace and then set up the return paused is equals to underscore paused. There you go. Alright, after this we are going to create the function of the count function. There you go, function. And then we're going to name the first count with increment. Inc stands for increment, and then you don't have to fill up the argument inside of this parenthesis. Type external, after the curly brace, and then write up the requirement for paused. So type require, and then inside of this condition write exclamation mark and then paused, and then fill up this quote unquote with paused, and then count the counter, symbol counter plus equals to 1, and then another example, we are going to create check stands for decrement, and then type external, open up the curly brace, write the requirement statement, and then same requirement from the code before, paused, and then paused, and then count the symbol of decrement, and then 1. There you go. And then in order to make the modifier function, you have to write it with modifier like this, and then named it with when not paused, or whatever you want to call it, paused, and then empty the parenthesis, open up the curly brace, and then write the same requirement as this function down below. Requirement require, and then in this condition paused, and then quote unquote paused, and then down below the requirement statement create underscore semicolon. It stands for is already attached with the function down below, and afterwards we have to write the name of the modifier function inside of the function in order to make it even more attached. So in this function you have to write the name of the modifier function. There you go. The same code will be executed by the time you're willing to adding up more count function such as divide or multiple. Alright, so afterwards you don't have to write the same requirement because we already have the requirement inside of the modifier function right over here. So you can't just delete it and then delete it, and then the same function you can try it out with multiply. Mul stands for multiply, and then type external, write up the name of the modifier function, paused, then count multiple equals to, for example, 2, and then the same thing like divide function, div, and then external, and then when not paused, and then open up the curly brace, count, and then divide equals to, for example, 2. There you go. Here's the basic of modifier function. And then next thing that I'm going to tell you is input. So what is input? Input modifier is the modifier function to capping the previous modifier and the current modifier, and it also get related from one another. So we're going to create another function and name it with another adding and increment. I'm gonna name it with increment by, because we're gonna add it more. In this case we have to fill up the parentheses, and then we're going to make the argument with uint underscore x, and then type external, there you go, and then write up the name of the variable of the previous modifier when not paused, like this, and then count the increment statement, and then x right here, and then we have to create another modifier. So before that we have to fill up the requirement, require, and then for example we are going to make this x with the value less than 100, and then if the code doesn't work, then we're gonna create the statement with x is equals less greater or equals than 100, like this. There you go. And then create modifier, and then filled up with the argument, and then before of that we have to name it the cap, stands for capping, and then open up the curly brace, just cut the requirement, and then as usual write underscore semicolon like this. So this modifier stands for input modifier in order to adding up even more function of the modifier from the previous modifier. Okay, so the last thing that I want to discuss more is about stack. So what is that? So stack modifier is modifier of function that got 3 of ways to running up the function. So I'm gonna direct to teach you about that. So first and foremost, as usual, create function and then named it with foo, type external, and then open up the curly brace. By the way, you don't have any related from the previous modifier, so don't mention anything about the previous modifier above. Just focus on this, on stack. All right, and then for example, I'm gonna make count. Sorry, okay. 1, and then create. I'm gonna create a direct modifier, and then named it with stack, and then don't need to fill up the parentheses, and then open up the curly brace, count, with the counter of 2, and then underscore semicolon, and then count, another count, and then given the value of 3. So what does that even mean? So in this function, the actual function executed first, and then the modifier, this, the count with the number of 2, with the value of 2, is executed afterwards, and then it will update it automatically to the actual function right over here, and then the last one, the modifier right over here, will be executed. So that's it. That's the overview of the modifier. I hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys.